Your main protagonist is like a poet.
Yeah.
So why did you choose like poetry?
Ah.
Do you find like there's like a connection between like poem and also like the language of cinema, and how do you relate that to like human rights issues?
Oh, these are really great questions. Thank you. That's a wonderful question. Practically, why did we choose poetry? Well, because we're working in a very closed society, so we have to be very careful of what subjects we're going to choose before we start. So my wife was doing research before we went to Burma, and she had read in a journalistic account, several journalistic accounts, that there are many, many poets in Burma. So that caught her attention. And we thought, wow, I really wonder if that's true. Let's go explore that. And it was true, in fact, more than true. There's so many poets, you can't believe it in Burma. So many poets that it's actually difficult to choose if you're trying to make a film. So that was basically, you might say our Trojan horse is a subject, but I think better than that too. Basically a subject that could really take us into the country and through storytelling help us show how their world is changing. So that's kind of why we chose poetry. But then of course, we also read that many poets were involved in politics, and that poetry was, not just writing about beautiful things, but about important things in the country, right? So, and then of course, when you're making films, it depends on your character. And then we were blessed to have this extraordinary character and his wife, drop down from heaven to us. They're like, wow, I can't believe I get to meet these people and make a film about them. So that was amazing. So that's the practical part. But actually, my favorite part of your question is when you're asking what's the relation between poetry and documentary. The longer I do this work now, it's about 15 years, the more I'm trying to really move from just kind of standard cinema verite, maybe even reportage style is what my earlier films were, to really author-driven cinema. So it's really storytelling through cinema. So that means that the pictures have to tell a story on their own, okay? And then we can talk about in the class how I've evolved through past examples of the work. But basically, the way this film starts is also true. When we say in those 4 title cards at the beginning that when we met this poet for the very first time, at one point, he looked into my eyes and, we're just chitty-chatting, and 10 minutes into it, and he says, let's make a long poem together. So you're like, wow, I can't believe you said that. This person, wants to work with me. Oh, boy, am I ever lucky. And then the bar is really raised because it's, boy, you better deliver, because imagine if you made an ugly film about a beautiful poet. That would be awful, right? So the images in our craft have to basically measure up to these poets whose words are so beautiful, but not just their words, their lives are so beautiful that the film has to reflect that. And it's not going to work if it doesn't. So, yeah.
Well, as an outsider,
do
you feel you have an advantage or disadvantage?
Oh, okay. That's a nice question too. A bit of both. As an outsider or insider. On one hand, the reason why I do this work, I think, one of the real basic reasons, because I believe in cosmopolitanism. I don't like borders. I wish they didn't exist. I wish we didn't have to have passports. I wish anybody could live wherever they want. And I wish the whole world was like one giant community and family where everybody is welcome, everybody is accepted, everybody is respected. So, and that means in storytelling that, I have this kind of naive belief that we can make the world a bit of a smaller place through storytelling. So maybe in with this film, nicest Q&A, I'm sure there'll be better questions today, but so far, the nicest question I had, we were showing the film in Copenhagen at the international premiere, and there was a young kid from Ukraine, a young filmmaker from the Ukraine who was about, mid-20s. And he told me after the film, he watched the film, he said, I thought Burma was some faraway land that I would have no connection to. But after seeing your film, I feel that Burma is part of me now. It's a place that's really close, that I completely understand and empathize with the difficulties they have because of my own difficulties, problems with it, political injustice. And that's really, really special when that happens. So that's our kind of tiny little way of trying to change the world through film.
The young filmmaker you met in Copenhagen.
Yeah.
Do you have an advice for young filmmakers, documentary filmmakers that want to try to working on a human rights documentary?
Oh wow, another beautiful question. Yeah, sure, of course. The biggest advice is just this: don't be scared. And maybe you think, yeah, well, I'm not scared. What's the big deal? But I find that I talk about my own personal experience. I became a filmmaker when I was 34, and I quit my job as a university professor. I was terrified. It's like, oh, how am I ever going to make this work? And most people told me it's never going to work. They said, you're too old. You've never been to film school. You're going to die of hunger. You'll never make a living doing this. What are you thinking? Documentary filmmaking as a career. You're crazy. And I didn't listen to those people. But it took a lot of courage to make that big leap for me. So maybe if you're a young person, you're like, yeah, I'm going to make films. I don't know what this guy's problem is. I'm just going to do that. But I like to encourage people just to know that if you're feeling scared about starting, you're not the only one. So just deal with it and basically live your dreams. Because if you don't, you will regret it. Yeah. And then one more thing, maybe, and you'll learn this through time after you've made a bunch of films, to know that if this is a career or profession that you want to choose in documentary filmmaking, and especially independent documentary filming, then you should really be a type of person who likes endurance sports. Like maybe you would like to do marathon running, because it's a little bit like that. You have to be into that sort of thing. Yeah. So maybe that's helpful. Yeah.
And also like projects like these, they
Yeah.
are like very long time.
Yeah.
How do you like keep yourself like interested in topic?
Oh.
Make it fresh.
Yeah, that's a nice question too. How do you not get bored? Oh, wow. Well, above all, be present in the moment. And then nothing is boring. If you're present all the time, everything is exciting. But maybe an easier answer to that is pick subjects that matter. And if you pick subjects that matter, you'll never get bored. Because what you're doing, you will never ask yourself, why am I doing this? Because you don't have to answer that question, because it matters. So that's the easiest way. Don't waste your time on stuff that you shouldn't be putting your energy into. Put stuff into things that really matter to you deep in your heart, no matter what they are. So it doesn't have to be human rights filmmaking, that's my thing, but no matter what you're into, just make sure it's things that really, really matter to you.